In the history of American crime, there is a name that makes the whole world shudder: Ted Bundy. He was the embodiment of deception. A handsome man with a warm voice, a sharp mind, but behind that smile is a cold-blooded monster. Born on November 24, 1946, in Burlington, Vermont, Bundy grew up in a seemingly normal family. But the painful truth: he was raised by his grandmother, who he believed was his biological mother, had planted the seeds of a confusion, deception, and psychological turmoil soul. He studied law, participated in political campaigns, and always appeared as a Prince Charming. But from 1974 to 1978, Ted Bundy took the lives of at least 30 young women. Today, we're going to explore his elaborate scam, just so you understand and stay vigilant. Ted Bundy didn't lurk in the shadows. Like a typical predator, he was a master of psychological manipulation, taking advantage of people's kindness and gullibility to set his traps. His methods were simple but deadly, pretending to be someone in need of help. He wore an arm brace and used crutches, or even impersonates a police officer to approach his victims. But what made these young, intelligent women fall into his trap? Let's analyze the sophisticated tricks that he used. First, let's talk about his appearance. Ted Bundy was handsome, well-dressed, and charming in his way of speaking. He always smiled, made eye contact, and made people feel safe. No one suspected a man like him would be a danger. He used his appearance to dispel any suspicion, to lower his victim's guard from the very first sight. Second, Bundy often used the scenario: person in need of help. He pretended to be injured, dropped books, or struggled to lift things into his car. These actions strike directly at the compassion of victims, especially kind-hearted young women. Who could refuse to help someone in need, right? But that was the deadly trap that Bundy had carefully set. Third, he always chose public places to strike, such as parks, libraries, or university campuses. These places made victims feel secure, because who would think a killer would dare to act in broad daylight in front of dozens of eyes? Bundy's boldness was his weapon, making him virtually invisible. Finally, Bundy was a master of psychological manipulation. He created a sense of urgency, giving his victims no time to think. His statements like, "I need help now," "My car is about to be towed," or "It'll only take a minute," which he pushes the victim into action immediately. The room for doubt was erased, and they fell into his trap. Let's look at how Bundy approached each victim to see his sophistication. On July 14, 1974, at Lake Sammamish, Washington, Bundy appeared with his arm in a brace, claiming to be a struggling boater. He approached Janice O'T, a 23-year-old social worker, by asking her to help him load the boat onto the car. He called her by name, smiled warmly, and acted clumsy to evoke her kindness. Ott, who was always eager to help, agreed to go with him to a secluded place. She never returned. In 1978, at the Chi Omega Dormitory, University of Florida, Bundy changed his tactic. He posed as a firefighter, knocked on the door of Margaret Bowman's room, a 21-year-old student wearing a firefighter's jacket, said in an authoritative voice that a security check was needed because of a fire hazard. Bowman, like many others, trusted the image of a firefighter. She opened the door, and that was her last mistake. In Utah, in 1974, Bundy approached Nancy Wilcox, a 16-year-old girl, at a shopping center. He pretended to be a law student, asking her to help him find documents for a project. With his legal knowledge and confidence, he made Wilcox feel safe and attracted. She agreed to go with him to help at a nearby location, where she was attacked. Another case was Corinne Campbell, a 23-year-old nurse, at Snowmass Resort, Colorado. In 1975, Bundy posed as a lost tourist, asking Campbell for directions to a nearby cabin. He deliberately dropped a stack of papers, acting awkwardly to make her feel like she needed to help him. Campbell, who was kind and caring, went with him. That was the last time she was seen. What made Bundy particularly dangerous was his flexibility in his stories. He never repeated a story for a second time. From student to firefighter to tourist, he changed his identity depending on the victim and the situation. But the common point was that he always makes them feel safe before luring them to a secluded place. He studied his victims, adjusting his approach to suit their psychology, leaving them no room for suspicion. The most terrifying thing about Ted Bundy wasn't the number of victims, but how he earned absolute trust. He exploited our kindness, our trust, and our lack of vigilance. But how can we avoid becoming victims of predators like him? Ted Bundy taught us a costly lesson. Don't let appearances fool you. Be wary of strangers, no matter how trustworthy they seem. Don't follow strangers. Check anyone's identity, who, claiming to be a government official, and always listen to your instincts. Ted Bundy is history, but scammers are still out there. Be smart, protect yourself, stay vigilant to stay safe.